Good day, friends. Welcome to another Word of Gord. Today we're going to take a further plunge into the new print edition of my channel text, Jesus and the Christ, and touching on some related matters that were hinted at in the previous two readings. Here we are, and available through Amazon and the CreateSpace store. From Jesus on Dark Brothers and Black Magic. The Dark Brothers of the left-hand path have been resident on the planet since the opening of the evolutionary operations. These rebel angels, like every other sentient being extant, were, and still are, permitted as much free will as they needed to explore the farthest reaches of their ambitions and fears. It was understood that the developing consciousness of man on the planes of form required outlets and guides for every aspect of his expression. Having slipped from grace of pure but innocent being into the grasping need for knowledge, man required many paths through the lands of self-indulgence, sometimes called sin. And the Dark Brothers, in their determination to reign over something, became the ideal caregivers to those entrained by the hunger of desire. Their powers were those of God, bent toward the gratification of the isolated self. And early man, exploring that new identity, reached for that level of inspiration. It gave him the impetus to conquer and control as many elements of creation as were thought to be within his grasp. We, on the other hand, attempted to inspire the thoughts of love, mercy, and compassion for the suffering of others that became the hallmarks of true spirituality. We inspired the arts, sciences, and religions, and they, in their turn, took those inspirations and moved them towards the lust for power, profit, status, and control inherent in the selfish fears produced by the experience of personality. So far, a typical good guys, bad guys scenario, you may say. But consider the almost infinite complexity that the bifurcation of these impulses and counter-impulses provided. Indeed, these are the deaths of all your historical dramas, the details of all your historical dramas. The love of God jousting with the lust for power and the fears of defeat. All the marvelous intricacy of the many-dimensional tapestry that we breathe. All the potential for expression, the passion in action, the resignation in results. Though they know it not, the Dark Brothers have largely served their purpose. The indulgence in selfish desires has brought about the inevitable plethora of karmic results, and the vast majority of men are plodding their way back home through the paths of the prophets, seeking and often finding the angelic inspiration they now require for the completion of their education. The bridges to God that they burnt in their ignorance are now being rebuilt by the sacrifice of the ego on the altar of love. Of course, there are always those who lag behind in the ancient ruts of cruelly selfish behavior. Look around you to those who kill, torture, mutilate without compunction of any kind. See the angry, vengeful, and unrepentant, especially those who wrap their fanatical determination in sacred texts and national defense. The epoch for conflict resolution through destruction of the other is well and truly over. but they do not realize it and keep on fighting that same old fight, invoking the ancient imperatives of the conqueror. These humans are still in thrall to the Dark Brothers, who continue to quietly convince through their peculiar brand of psychic propaganda, which informs its unconscious audience of A, the need to dominate rather than assimilate, B, the drive to assert and defend righteousness against all and every challenge of apostates, renegades, and infidels, and C, the determination to quell every expression of individual choice to favor the sacred authority of tradition. And to enforce the achievement of these goals, all manner of despicable cruelties are allowed and even encouraged. The energies expressed from the inner ecstatic hell of the fanatic, although rooted and ancient, are slowly withering, and will one day cease. Until that day, I urge your patience and understanding. Love these sinners as I love both them and you, and feel redemption in the process. Forgive them their mighty errors, even as they languish in the heavens of cherished beliefs and self-satisfaction. For many have thus dwelt and passed their reward of rest, and understand that both they and their demonic guides can be reached, regardless of the location of their temporary residence, by merciful prayer and the silent ministrations of love. Love is the greatest of gifts, and both its source and its reach boundless. Bend to its breath and be one with its blessing. These things I urge, but only with your gracious accord, for little can be accomplished without it. And a few weeks after that, in 2006, 2007, I think, Maitreya had this to say on masters and guides. Many of you have opened up to the possibility and existence of spirit guides and regularly make a conscious attempt to tune into your guidance when the challenges and contradictions of daily life seem to outstrip your ability to cope with them. The astral plane beings who selflessly attend to your needs are themselves constantly challenged by the difficulties in effective communication. Such are the frantic and chaotic demands of modern life on the incarnate individual. Placing the message or shot of inspiration into an appropriate and useful slot in a multitasking brain is a subtle and delicate form of surgery, and many is the new guide who gives up in frustration and has to be helped by one with more experience in the field. Their service to you is as yours to your young children, a labor of love with little thanks. But given the ease and delight of life in the planes of spirit, they move to the task willingly, knowing that the bliss of their current being can easily be resumed after any failed attempt at assistance. They are of value to you because their life experience, albeit in other societies and epochs, has been very similar, and they can intimately relate to your very human difficulties, instinctively knowing, as they do, the pull and push of the various forces exerting themselves in your direction. That you often fail to either absorb the proffered advice or put it to any good use does not negate the overall usefulness of the project. That some of you persevere and succeed, and others take advantage of the bridging mechanism provided by psychics undoubtedly aids in the overall plan, which, as you may have guessed, is the harmonious merging of the astral and physical planes, the last links of which have been prepared and are ready to fall into place. That is, of course, the various technological innovations that will effectively bridge the gap. Subtle extensions of the telephone and television, they shall manifest when enough of you overcome your innate resistance and embrace the implications they bring with them. Embracing your immortality, such as then will be obvious, is more of a leap than many of you have yet considered. The many avoidances and denials of daily responsibility will no longer be possible. For example, the communication will show not only that the dead continue to live happily and productively, but that the unborn are also available for such communication, as will show them keen for the challenges of a new incarnation, and some of them planning a return to the families they have not long left. Although the eternal life promised by such revelations will be a joy to many, others, unaccustomed to such thoughts, will be unable to assume such a heavy-seeming mantle. They will long for their old familiar limitations and vague promises of either annihilation or salvation that left them plenty to not think about. Ponder on these ideas as you wonder why these innovations have yet to come to fruition. As spirit guides can assist you in the most mundane of matters, as well as the more rarefied and ethereal of your aspirations, masters such as myself are occupied with significantly more cosmic matters. With our brothers, the Devas, and even Gaia herself, we are often employed in the regulation and adjustment of various subtle flows of cosmic energies and rays, almost all of which are as yet beyond the scope of not only your science's instruments, but also your scientists' imaginations. Our concerns are rarely with the individual human, for we know that spirit guides and some angels have assumed that role and are proficient in its execution, at least as proficient as human frailty will allow. We regard the vast sweep of the historical and evolutionary enterprise as one great drama with many acts, in which we are conscious players and observers. At times we feel we are also directors, and then again, from a deeper perspective, we are the directed. Running a solar system does not excuse you from directives from beyond, just in case you were wondering. As advanced as we may seem, we too are learning to handle greater and greater degrees of challenge and responsibility. We too are subject to intelligences beyond our normal frame of reference. Just as we regard you as beloved younger siblings who require loving guidance as you make your way through the rough and tumble of the Earth School, there are those who regard us as junior partners whose managerial skills need shaping and sharpening from time to time. All sentient entities form a great chain of being which stretches unbroken from tiny neutrinos through insects, trees, and humans to the enormity of galaxies, all of which need feeding, inspiration, guidance, and regulation. Spirit guides cater to one level and we masters to another, with fairies, devas, angels, and archangels filling in some of the gaps. Those souls residing in the bliss of the God consciousness, known as nirvana, may not see the value of such educative purpose, but their automatic radiation of ecstasy provides a very useful counterbalance to the various regressive and negative influences from all the planes, which tend to anchor man's innate desire for freedom and expression in the ruts of the habitual and known. So allow yourselves, dear souls, to be blessed with this knowledge, for regardless of your stage on this journey of constant transformation, the inspiration for progress and guidance to achieve it are always available to those who make the call. Be assured that your current status in and of itself is no ultimate obstacle to growth, A guide can be contacted. A miracle can happen. A master will know. Friends, in this book there are several short interjections by myself on the various questions that may arise from the reception and transmission of these messages. And one of them is seems appropriate to read today. It's called How This Book Happens, a Note from Gordon. The practice is relatively simple as book production goes. I finish my morning work shift around 9 a.m., park my vehicle, and head into a conveniently located Starbucks, where the staff and regulars know me well, where the morning sun floods in cheerfully as the coldest of winter mornings, and where the patio of the next door restaurant is filled with delightful decorative plants come May. In the hubbub of socializing, business meetings, and earnest attention to laptops, I plug in mine and sit to absorb the master's thoughts. Sometimes I am aware of the theme to be dealt with, as it has been somehow whispered in my ear that morning or perhaps the night before, and sometimes I am completely surprised. On other occasions I have telepathed a pointed question and asked if he would care to outline a response. The revelations suggested by the Nag Hammadi texts and the resulting Da Vinci Code mania are a good example. As I have earlier indicated, sometimes the words and ideas flow smoothly, gathering momentum as I gradually harmonize my vibration with the source. On other occasions, Gordon's brain, education, and ego provide many a clever stumbling block, lending the unfolding that stuttering quality so typical of the intellect shadowed by its own doubt. And certainly one is aware of the opposite danger, that smooth rolling confidence that is the child of fanaticism. Personally, I find the humility bestowed by revelation sufficient guard against such madness, but each reader will inevitably make their own assessment of that matter. I take dictation until the theme seems exhausted, and often feel myself glowing with the blessing of higher consciousness provided. To feel like a master, even the shadow of a master, for a few precious minutes is just about as marvelous as you may imagine. I float out of the Starbucks towards my next work shift around 11 and am feeling quite wonderful, sometimes for only moments but often for hours, till that drab combination of ego issues and daily stresses returns me to that all too familiar bondage of incarnation, where one struggles with one's shadow to maintain the harmony of psychic equilibrium. Yes, it can be a roller coaster ride, with both the highs and the lows seeming to cancel out each other's effects, leaving the experiencer alternately buffeted and then becalmed. But I wonder whether it's significantly different from the ups and downs of the average seeker, who may feel miles from any master's influence. Frankly, I doubt it. The ups and downs of the inner journey to soul, God, and beyond appear more archetypal than individual. Stages on a progress where we all stand, marking time until the view from the plateau is trumped by the challenge of the climb. Well, friends, I hope you found that enjoyable and inspirational, or at least thought-provoking. And as today is January the 2nd, I will wish you all a happy and prosperous new year. Blessings, my friends.